Hey, Zern listeners, Love is Blind. Let's see what happens.
I'm scared. I've been hurt, girl. I don't want to get hurt again.
You're not.
I don't want to get hurt again. I'm so scared.
You're not.
It's sweet to see support and bonding. New friends. We've seen that, people become friends in the lounge, which at first I was like, but then I thought, oh, of course. I've talked about this before, but when you go to camp, I was in charge of the psychology element of this camp for this high school, and there were a bunch of kids that would come to the camp. It was the very first day of school, and it was up in the mountains, and most of the kids didn't really know each other. And by the end of the couple days, there were best friends, people having these kinds of scenes together. And I was reminded of myself when I would go to camp when I was young. And I think you might remember I fantasized about adult camps, and I know that they do exist, but I feel like there should be a lot more of them because the bonding that's facilitated by just being in other people's presence. And as the psychology person at this camp for hundreds of kids, I bonded with a lot of the people too, kids, but also a lot of the staff and the teachers and whatnot. It's a unique experience that you don't even get with your family, or go to a thing with your family. Like with my family, we do that sometimes. We'll have these reunions and we'll go to a cabin or a rental where we're all staying in the same area, and we spend 24/7 together, and there's a lot of bonding that happens. But anyway, so it's good to see. I was also wondering earlier that with their relationship, because Lydia was trying to help Aaliyah, and she kept saying, look at me. And I wondered if Aaliyah was appreciative of it, but clearly she was, because, she's very visibly wanting her support and likes her.
I know that you'll at least be honest and straightforward with me, no matter what. And that at least gives me peace, knowing that.
So, speaking of trust and...
Uh-oh. The musical cue, his face, the editing. Is he about to talk about that he cheated on someone in the past and all of his high and mightiness was a double standard of some kind? What's going to happen?
Honesty. There's something I have to tell you.
Okay.
I haven't been completely honest with you.
I suppose it could be something like, remember when I was 18 and I said that I cheated? Well, it wasn't just kissing, it was also some second base stuff or something. I don't know. It's the suspense is killing me.
One of my dates, on the first day, I walked into the pod, and it is a girl that I have dated in the past.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, of course. Houston is a big city, but I'm guessing, like any city, it's not hard to run into people, particularly in a situation like this, meaning that the show might attract a certain sort of person, right? And since you're that sort of person, you might have already met those other sorts of people. So, okay. But he probably should have said something earlier. But he might have been prevented from saying something, right? Or he worried that he shouldn't say something because he might get kicked off of the show or something. I don't know.
And it's Lydia.
What? What? Oh my God. I have chills thinking about Aaliyah. What is she going to think? Because presumably Lydia hasn't told Aaliyah. And I guess, ironically, in a way, Lydia and Aaliyah have a closer relationship than Aaliyah and Uche have, because they're in person having physical contact and having a very intimate friendship. So that betrayal is real. And plus, like, friends, you just think like, and plus Aaliyah was talking with Lydia about Uche, and Lydia, remember that scene when Lydia was like, I am you, I am just like you, we are the same. Yeah, in more ways than one. So I think I would be more betrayed by Lydia in that moment, because it's more relevant. It's more of the conversation. With Uche, I'm not talking about Lydia. That's not a topic that is coming up. It's just, it's possible that Uche literally doesn't even know that Aaliyah and Lydia are friends, or he barely knows, or something. But Lydia knows everything. Lydia knows everything that Aaliyah's going through and how intense it is, and is talking about Uche, right? Like, there's a possibility that Uche and Aaliyah have never mentioned, or if they have, it's never been part of the conversation about Lydia. Lydia and Aaliyah, in terms of the edit, that's all they're talking about is Uche. So, also, well, yeah. Oh, but I don't know. I could see Aaliyah being like, after some apologies made, and you could, if you're Lydia and Uche, I suppose you could apologize and give your reasons, but also say, I should have said earlier. The other thing is, why would you not? Now, okay, there's also a possibility that Lydia did tell Aaliyah, and I will find out in the next episode, and Aaliyah will say, yeah, I kind of knew that. Lydia already told me. She whispered it to me. I'm really hoping that is the case, honestly. And then you have, I guess, the scenario of Aaliyah saying, well, you could have told me a long time ago and you didn't. I do wonder, though, if Uche would worry about the contract. Would that be on the contract? Would that be in the... I mean, they would have known, right, that the producers, because presumably Lydia walks into Uche's pod area and they introduce her like, oh, wait, are you that Lydia? And, yeah. Oh. Or they had a conversation and they both sort of agreed not to mention it to the cameras, but they both like, well, we both know who this person is. I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but we, at the very least, we do know that Uche is admitting that he withheld information and lied by omission. And yeah, why wouldn't you, if you could mention it? I don't know. There's just a lot of questions, because I could see a world in which he intuited or something that he shouldn't say it because he was going to bother the show or get kicked off. And then he talked to the producers at some point, says, is it okay if I got to tell her, is it okay? And they're like, let me run it up the chain. And okay, yes, you can say it. And then he says it. I don't know. Because the thing is why would Uche withhold that information from Aaliyah? What motivation would he have? Could it be that he worried that he'd be judged for having dated Lydia? That doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think. So that's not, or he would, well, so would he worry that Lydia would give Aaliyah like a negative impression of him? But I don't know. I guess I should just watch. But let me speculate about why Lydia wouldn't tell, if that's true. That doesn't make any sense. Why would Lydia not tell Aaliyah? By the way, the guy you're dating, I dated him. One, you should know that as my friend. But also, I have some background information that, you can take or leave, but you should, I know data. I should give that to you so you can use that and whatever, I'll give the pros and the cons of dating Uche, something like that. Yeah, I could see how it would be against contract, because then Lydia could talk to everyone about how good looking he is, which is totally against the rules, and vice versa. That Uche could go around and say, I know what Lydia looks like. Anyone, to Izzy, it's just like, I know you and Lydia are a thing, and I know what she looks like. I could describe her to you. I could tell you what I think, what my opinion is about her looks or whatever. So I'm sure that they would try to avoid that. Yeah.
I walked into the pod And I started talking. The person seemed to recognize my voice and know certain things about me.
Recognize your voice? You have a very distinct name, my friend. So I would imagine that because you introduced each other by name. So what?
It is a girl that I have dated in the past. It's Lydia.
Hello, who's this?
My name is Uche.
Fuck!
Okay, so we're seeing, I'm glad, I love it when Love is Blind does stuff like this. Other shows don't do this very often, but just show us what happened. And this is good editing, because if they showed us earlier, it wouldn't be quite the bomb going off. Although it would have been interesting to kind of see this, sort of like with Vanderpump, at the beginning of the season, people knew because it leaked, or I don't know. But anyway, so we're seeing this now, and yeah, it wasn't voice, it was your name. And she, being her regular, expressive, very overt, outward person that Lydia is, she just exclaims. There's no hiding it.
Uche Okoroha, you're a lawyer, have a business.
Who am I speaking with?
Really, Uche, you don't know who I am.
Who are you?
You do not recognize my voice.
I do not recognize your voice.
Oh, shit. Okay, how about this? You know me outside the pods.
I know you outside the pods.
Yes.
What's your name?
Okay, so she's playing a little game. I'm gathering that you know me from outside the pods, but no, I don't recognize your voice.
Name?
I love Kobe.
Lydia?
Yes! Fuck!
Yeah, okay. I'm sure the show would want to avoid this, and this would be a very difficult thing to screen. Uche is, how old is Uche? He is 33, Lydia is, I think, 30, and I don't know their exact serial monogamy history. They might have hundreds of people that they've dated in their life, so it'd be impossible. I wonder though if they ask them. That'd be interesting. Do they ask the cast, like, write down all the names of the people you have dated, but as you forget, I suppose. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No way.
Uche, how you been?
I've been great. This is kind of
Unexpected?
This is unexpected. I don't know. I don't know if it's a sign or if
Right. Is this a sign?
Right. They would really want to avoid this, like I said earlier, because they could tell everyone what they look. Plus, like, what if, they consider it a sign and they're just like, maybe we should start dating again. Although maybe the show wouldn't mind that. But it would break the system because they know what each other looks like, so.
Do you want to start in zero? A blessing in disguise?
I don't think we can do that, because that kind of, it ruins the
experience in the
experiment.
Yeah, or Uche just doesn't want to rekindle, and he's just saying that as an excuse. That's an interesting conversation.
Oh my God,
Looks
how are
like-
you gonna feel if I get engaged and you see me with somebody else? How are you gonna feel?
I don't know. This really caught me off guard.
How is he going to feel? Well, so I wonder what their history is, because I would assume that both of them are okay with that relationship ending. I don't know. So she's like, how are you going to feel? I would imagine that, given the fact that he wasn't calling you before the show came on, unless she knows you really loved me and I dumped you and you still text me sometimes. I don't know. It doesn't sound like that's the case, though.
We dated for a few months. I just didn't think that we were that compatible, so I ended things. It hurt me so much, because she deserves an amazing person who is completely sure about her.
Okay, so a few months, and he broke up with her. The way he's talking, it sounds like maybe it was kind of an intense 3 months. I don't know.
And I really hope she finds that.
It's Lydia. I need a second.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Aaliyah is focusing on, but yeah, lying by omission is very hurtful. Like, why would you do that to me? Why wouldn't you tell me? What else haven't you told me? And people have done this to me before. And you shamed me for not telling my past boyfriend. Like, what's going on here? But if I were in Aaliyah's shoes, like I said earlier, I would be most hurt about Lydia. I'd just be like, what? So we've been talking at length about Uche this whole time, and it never occurred to Lydia to tell me this. Plus, Lydia was dumped by Uche, so that adds a flavor to it, right? Because then it throws everything into question. Because if Lydia is saying things like, you and I are the same, and he needs to take responsibility for... Remember when she said that? When Lydia said, he needs to take responsibility for what he's done. And I'm thinking, huh? What does he need to take responsibility for? So then you think, if you're Aaliyah, like, so was Lydia doing that to pull me away because she wants to be with him? I mean, in that flashback scene when they met, she was basically saying, let's give it another shot. And she was kind of fighting for it, right? She wasn't lightly trying to convince him. And then he's like, I don't know. And then she says, how are you going to feel if I get engaged? Trying to bait him or something, or provoke him, or not, I don't know what the word is, convince him. And then you're thinking, if you're Leah, you're thinking, is she trying to get him for herself? What else isn't she telling me? What is going on here? Yeah. And also, she might even feel betrayed by the show, because the show knew and they didn't tell her. Because these folks, they have daily conversations with their designated liaison producer person, and there's a betrayal there, and you're stuck in a pod cult thing, and you don't know which way is up, and you're alone with you can't trust anybody. That'd be a pretty disorienting situation.
Feel like I was better off before.
And it would have helped, Uche, if you could have said, and I'm so sorry that I lied to you by omission, and here's the reasons why. It's not an excuse, but here's what I was thinking. I do care about you. I do love you. And I did it. It was stupid. Just say something. It could help.
I don't know how to feel. In my mind, I'm just like, it's not that I don't trust Lydia. I need to talk to her.
She's a trustworthy person.
She's been making comments.
What kind of comments?
She's been saying things, and I'm like, how do you know this?
Interesting. God damn. So I didn't even know. I was hoping that Lydia had told Aaliyah, and Aaliyah was just hurt about, I don't know, it would have been strange if that were true given Aaliyah's reaction at first, but I don't know. I was still holding out that Lydia had told Aaliyah, but now we're learning that she didn't, which is congruent with what's been happening here. And so good on Uche to say she's a trustworthy person. So, I don't think bad things about her. We both lied to you by omission, I guess. But she's like, I don't know. She's been saying things. How do you know that? Saying things. What did she say? Oh, my goodness. Lydia. You watch enough reality TV, you start seeing certain patterns, certain tropes, certain scenarios that just happen because there's only so many things that humans can do in reality, even on a reality TV show. But this is a new one. The Lydia, the Uche thing, to me, if Aaliyah can feel however she wants to about it, but if I were in Aaliyah's shoes, the Uche thing is like, yeah, okay. It's almost kind of not relevant to it's a detail that you should say, because when you finally do tell me or I learn about it, I'll be like, why didn't you tell me? That's weird. It's disconcerting. But the Lydia thing is, that is some psychopathic shit right there. Can you imagine The amount of bonding and talking and hugging and crying and, being together, they look like they're best friends now. And the whole time you are Lydia and and it sounds like it wasn't that long ago that they dated and you were dumped and you still have feelings for Uche, whether you admit it to yourself or not. But at the very least, you know this man. And now maybe Lydia has some reasonable excuse, like, I thought they were going to kick us off of the show, so I didn't think it was possible. Or, okay, I could see Lydia saying, I didn't want to mess things up for you. I love you so much, Aaliyah, that I didn't want to taint your picture because I have some negative things to say about him, but I didn't want to rain on your parade. I wanted you to just have your relationship with him and not be affected by my influence. Sort of like when you don't like you eat something, you're like, ugh, this is disgusting. It's not rotten. It's just like you don't like it. And you want support for it. So you give it to your friend and you're like, hey, can you taste this? And if you say, ugh, this is disgusting, can you taste this? Usually they'll be like, and the reaction could just be based on the fact that you primed them with the notion that it was disgusting. Whereas you might want an unbiased, be like, look, I'm not going to say if this is the best thing I've ever eaten or the worst thing, but can you try this? And you can get an unbiased opinion. I'm kind of joking, but you can imagine that Lydia might have been altruistically lying by omission to Aaliyah for that reason. But if not, then yeah, I mean, we've seen some diabolical behavior in these shows. And because the amount, to me, like in law, when you commit a crime, there'll be like 9 counts of blah, blah, blah. The amount of counts that are, that have happened for Lydia, where she had the opportunity to say something, or it would have been relevant, or it would have been very strange not to say something, and she didn't say anything. It's got to be hundreds or thousands of counts. There's got to be so many moments. Whereas for Uche, it wouldn't have been necessarily relevant very often. It was relevant-ish. Overall, it was relevant, but it might not have ever come up in conversation. Whereas with Lydia, it was coming up constantly. So every time she got to that Y in the road, she was like, no, I'm going to withhold this information. For what reason? For what reason? Lydia wants to influence things negatively, but it didn't look that way from the edit. It looked like Lydia was actually trying to assist, being a wingman for Uche, so to speak. I mean, at the very least, not an antagonist to Uche. Kind of, but there were other scenes that I didn't show where Lydia was saying, you'll be okay. He'll come around, not he'll come around, but anyway, being supportive and not negative. And then just trying to think, like, would she lie about it? But it's so illogical because at some point it's going to come up. So unless you think you're Lydia and you're thinking, Uche will never tell her and I will never tell her, so everything's fine. But why? But what motivation would Lydia have? So now, of course, this might all be revealed in the next scene, but I think it's useful to think about options, not because of Lydia, but because why would anyone do this? That's, I guess, my role on the internet. And another possibility is that Lydia wants Aaliyah for herself. And if, that's the wrong phrase. That Lydia, if she told Aaliyah, she's calculating, Lydia is saying, if I tell her, then Aaliyah won't want to be with me because I'm too close to Uche, or Aaliyah will think of me as a competitor, or since Uche, I could see that. I could see her thinking, well, Uche rejected me, and so I'm worried that you'll learn about that and then you will reject me. I guess it's still not a good choice. I suppose I'll throw this in here of that Lydia is just like, I am angry and I don't like Uche. I'm hurt. I want him, but I'm hurt by him and I'm angry at him. And now I'm learning that there's this rando girl here that Uche is having feelings for. What's wrong with me? How come it's her? I'm better than her. We can't imagine Lydia thinking that, but I'll throw it in there. And so I'm going to infiltrate this stuff and I'm going to tear it all down, or I'm just going to get close to it because I don't like it. And when she finds out, then she'll be hurt and she deserves it. I don't think that is likely. But, yeah, I feel really bad for Aaliyah. That is devastating. That is devastating. It's that, I mean, the amount, I don't know if we've ever seen footage of two people in the lounge that were so close and so dependent on each other. Maybe for the worst, honest, maybe not in a healthy way, but there was nothing indicating too much dependency. Hugging each other and reassuring each other, it's a good thing. I want more of that in the world. So, and also Aaliyah just looked so vulnerable in relation to Lydia. It wasn't, at least the footage, it was never the other way around. It was always Lydia being her mom, a very forceful mom. So, yeah, I'm really curious how this pans out. I guess I kind of hope that Aaliyah, well, one, I hope that Aaliyah doesn't blame herself and just goes to Lydia and says, like, what the F? And then Lydia apologizes deeply, and then Aaliyah's just like, look, maybe we can be friends in the future, but I'm going to take a break from you because there's a lot of questions. And so maybe we'll rebuild our relationships after the pods, but I'm going to take a break from you right now. I think that is what I'm hoping for.
What kind of comments?
She's been saying things, and I'm like, how do you know this? And even when we had our disagreement, she was the first person to come console me.
Oh, and then the other betrayal, by the looks of, well, so Uche said she's a very trustworthy person, but there's a chance that Uche knows Lydia, there's a streak in her of something, I don't know, but she could do something. So presumably Uche knew that Lydia hadn't told Aaliyah, or at least surmised that, because otherwise he wouldn't have said it in that way, right? So Uche could have thought like, so another possibility is Uche was hoping that eventually Lydia would just tell Aaliyah, and that, but then, I don't know. Anyway, so there's a possibility that Aaliyah could be additionally hurt and angry at Uche for not telling Aaliyah, you might want to kind of watch out because All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time when I continue watching, if you care to. And everyone, please, in the meantime, take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.